Welcome to the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Nina Adio, a social media marketing expert specializing in the wedding industry. Each week, we'll explore the strategies, stories, and insider tips that help wedding professionals thrive. You'll hear solo episodes filled with actionable advice for social media and inspiring conversations with esteemed wedding industry guests. Thank you for tuning in and letting this podcast be a part of your day. Let's get started. Welcome, everybody. I am so glad to have you guys here for another episode of the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. It's season 3, and we've been having a lot of fun, a lot of guests, and today we have 2 in 1, right? We're going to have fun with another guest, Ali Denniston of Eventlightenment. She has been on the podcast before. She has come on to talk about breaking into the luxury wedding space, and that was one of our top listened to episodes of that year. So I will link that in the show notes. But if you didn't get to listen to that one, let me tell you a little bit about Ali. She's a luxury event planner, podcaster, educator, and coach with over 14 years of experience in the wedding industry. And she's now the face behind Eventlightenment Planning. Drawing from her expertise in curating seamless events, building strong client relationships, and scaling a successful business, she is passionate about helping other wedding professionals thrive. And this is why I want to have Ali on the show, because she has a real gift to look into existing wedding industry professionals, look into their existing systems, look into their existing packages, look into what they're doing, and help them to pivot that, to make changes, and to really thrive with their business. So why do I keep saying thrive? It's because Emily Foster of Emily Foster Creative and I are doing a webinar, and it is called Start Strong, Thrive Long, and it is all about helping wedding businesses to thrive in the new year. And when Emily and I first spoke about doing this, I said, well, we need to have Ali on board for it. So it's going to be on December 11th. We have 2 times throughout the day. I'm going to have the show notes linked below, but I wanted to make sure that I mentioned this exciting webinar before Ali and I start talking and getting off track. Because as you know, as I do, I'm already doing it, right? Before I bring Ali on, I want to let you know that this season of the podcast is sponsored by the Inclusive Wedding Summit. The Inclusive Wedding Summit is an educational event for all wedding professionals who are ready to embrace inclusive growth and expand their reach. It's going to be including tips for marketing, as well as how to be more inclusive, accepted, genuine, all of these ideas for your wedding business through the new year. So it's not just going to be about the inclusivity, but how to really walk the walk. It is taking place virtually as well as in person at the Hilton Hasbrook Heights in Meadowlands, New Jersey on January 22nd. I will be there, so you can join me in person or virtually. You can get your tickets at theinclusiveweddingssummit.com. And when you go to the ticket link, use code NA30 for $30 off your ticket. But now, guys, I've got Ali in the waiting room, so let's get to it. Ali, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here again. Always have a good time with you, Nina.
Yes. I'm always fighting the urge not to talk about Taylor Swift or just
Don't fight the urge. I'll talk about her all day long.
how is the weather in Rhode Island right now?
It is freezing. I think we've had a little cold snap over the last couple days, so we're in like the low 40s or high 30s, and it is cold. I don't love it.
Ali had hosted but what do you call that event that you hosted?
Oh yeah, my wedding business strategy session.
Yeah, and I attended, and boy, Rhode Island was just like as cozy and incredible as you would imagine it to be. It was incredible. So I always have to kind of have to ask.
Well, anytime you want to come back and visit, you're welcome. And hopefully, I was actually hoping to plan another strategy session sometime in Q1 of 2025. So I'll keep you posted.
Yes, yes, please. So, part of what we're going to be chatting about today is we are participating together in the Start Strong, Thrive Long webinar that's going to be happening December
Woohoo!
11th. And you are a really big piece of this because I feel where your expertise is a lot of the tangibles for our wedding industry professionals
Yeah,
of, because yeah, I can talk about the social media and Emily can talk about the web design, but then what happens, right, when these people become clients or you want to book them or you
right.
really need the systems and strategies in place. So can you talk a little bit about what you'll be speaking on at this event, December 11th?
Yeah, so one of my favorite topics is time blocking and how that can actually be a great strategy for you to accomplish whatever it is. And it really applies no matter who you are, who are you as a vendor, in the industry, whether you're a planner or a photographer or a social media manager or a website designer. It really doesn't matter because time blocking can kind of apply to anyone, which is great. And I think using that as a strategy to keep yourself organized can help you to maximize your productivity overall. Because what is any person who's working and who owns their own business, what are we trying to do? We're just trying to be as efficient as possible. I don't know about you, but I am a one woman show. There's not really anyone to delegate to. Although I do surround myself with some really excellent support people. They're not people who are going to be able to do the bulk of what I do. So, we're here trying to really make ourselves the most efficient versions of ourselves as possible. And therefore, I think using time blocking as a strategy to maximize your productivity is really a great way to go. And I'm excited to share a little bit more about what that kind of looks like, and how it could apply, to your day to day, as well as to, your forward planning over a quarter or a half a year or even the full year. Because I think a lot of people right now are really kind of strategizing for the start of 2025 and kind of what that looks like. And then I think that is kind of also a perfect segue into some of the stuff that you'll be talking about, Nina, because you're going to be talking to our audience more about, how they can leverage their social media to kind of better connect with their potential clients, and with others within their network. Can you talk a little bit about how you'll be kind of carrying forth your piece of that puzzle?
Sure, and it really works well into time blocking. Look at you. You switch the tables on me. So wow. All right. Okay. Yeah, because and it goes well into time blocking because really what I'm going to be teaching is for the approach of people who are doing it themselves, like you mentioned,
Right,
being a
right,
one-woman show, or maybe you got a team of, let's say, a half dozen or less. So about time blocking your social media, adding it in to those time blocks where you're doing it maybe once a week or once every two weeks, even you could do it once a month, and how we can fit it in there, and what are the most important things to make sure you include on a limited time frame, which is going to include having those vendor tags in and continuing to follow the couples and really penciling in some time to see what's working and to review your analytics, because that surprisingly I think is the step that people miss the most. I think they tend to think the notifications after a post goes live is the best indicator, when there are a lot of people who are just secret scrollers and you want to see if they're saving a post, if they're sharing it, or most importantly, if they're going to your website after
right.
seeing a post.
And one of my favorite things too, not to give away all of the nuggets that I know you'll be sharing on the webinar, but one of the things that I love is that you've really broken it down into like bite size. So if it's just 10 minutes that you have to time block for your social media, you actually have some really great strategy to kind of help people leverage that 10 minutes and to make it work best for them in their day to day of managing their own social media. So, don't give away the secrets just yet, but I think that's a really great, draw hopefully for some of the folks that'll be joining us to kind of learn about how they can really be super productive with only just 10 minutes, which is amazing.
Yeah, yeah. It's always, kind of like prioritizing, just like you would with your time blocking. So I don't want to
Right.
get into your time blocking secrets, but we'll get into other things so we can give some of our value here. So let's talk about automations. I'm putting you on the spot
Yes.
because I told Ali I'm just gonna ask ChatGPT to come up with my questions for you. Because Ali and I are obsessed with ChatGPT. I'm gonna be
Yep.
doing actually um, shameless plug. I'm going to be at the Inclusive Wedding Summit in January, and part of the presentation is going to be showing you how to use AI for your business. So I'm using it all the time. So I can
And if you're
really,
not using AI, I mean, I'm certainly not at Nina's level, but if you're not using AI for your business, then you're doing yourself a disservice, in my opinion. Like, there are so many things, I mean, you're talking about automation. AI and
Mhm.
automation is like they go hand in hand. They're making your life better, and it doesn't mean that you have to just type in your prompt and copy paste what comes out.
Yeah.
It is more of an opportunity for you to kind of like get through that writer's block perhaps or come up with some inspiration so that you can write the best version of whatever you have in your brain, and
Yeah.
that's one thing I love about it.
Have you used AI beyond social media for your business? What are some ways you've used it?
Oh yeah. So obviously the obvious is, coming up with captions for social media, etc. But I've used it to write to refine copy on my website. Just to make sure that it's kind of flows as seamlessly as possible. I've used it to respond to difficult emails. Like I really don't want to come off like an a-hole right now. Therefore, this is what I'm trying to convey. Could you please help me say it in a professional and kind manner? I love that. And then I actually recently um, I was assisting a client of mine with putting together a business plan. And we did a lot of the work together in terms of gathering the content that we wanted included in said business plan. But we used AI to organize it all into something that we could actually print out and put into a formal booklet and use as the foundation of this client's business. So, there truly, I think it's limitless in terms of the ways that it can help you. I have a client who I am helping with a planning proposal. And I use the AI on Canva to come up with a few very simple inspiration images that showcased what he was looking to have in terms of decor for the proposal space. So, whether it's physically writing something and like needing actual copy to now, I mean, the capabilities of AI in relation to imagery is really phenomenal. I saw you came up with a couple of really cool, like Wizard of Oz themed weddings, which I thought was so
I'm
much fun.
obsessed. I'm
Oh my God, it
obsessed.
was so great. But I mean, again, just
They look
another
good.
example of why it's like limitless. You can do anything with it. It's
It's
crazy.
it's unlimited.
I set you up for that one.
Yeah. Well, Ali, you would you're not going to believe this happened, but my brother saw Wicked and he's engaged and he texted me saying Jeff Goldblum's outfit as the wizard is his inspiration for his groom look. Now, that
Yes,
may
I'm
sound
here for
extreme,
that.
but when you see the Wicked weddings I've been creating on AI, you will understand that for me, this is perfectly aligned. So it's like, great, I already have material. We're ready to go. Though, but then I also
Yes.
suggested maybe a hot air balloon wedding would work for them.
Oh, so fun. Yeah, or like a hot air balloon elopement. You
Oh,
elope on the hot air balloon, and then maybe you come back 6 months later for your
or
big
yeah.
wicked themed.
Or even
Bash.
like
I
the
love it.
balloon set, because they're not looking for traditional. They just want to showcase their personalities.
Right,
So
right.
that's where
And you
AI can come in. Look, because if you get somebody
absolutely
who inquires, right, about something you don't know anything about, say, hey, what do I need to know
right.
about
Yes.
Wicked in order to plan this wedding?
For sure, and so I don't know if you know this trick, Nina. I'm gonna guess you do. And maybe this is just giving away some free tips. But one thing that I found, and this kind of relates back to automating things and to even time blocking. Um, have you used AI to actually plan out your day or your week in terms of time blocking?
I have not. I've not. Do you
Oh,
think it
well,
will give
I will
me?
have to share the
Yeah.
prompt with you that I
Yes. What is
found.
it? Let's put it in now.
It's basically like asking ChatGPT to act as your personal assistant or executive assistant, and that for the next few minutes, you're going to brain dump all of the things in your head that need to get done, and you would like it to basically put together either a plan for your day or a plan for your week. And you can add additional prompts like, you know, XYZ needs to get done by this day at this time. I would like to prioritize these things, or put this on a secondary list of things to remind me of, as opposed to I need to get this done this week. Whatever it is, whatever the parameters, and then I use the Chat GPT actually on my iPhone, and I use the dictation function, and I just like turn it on and start blabbing. Like, I have to get back to this email. I need to follow up on XYZ for, this wedding. I need to make my dentist appointment. I need to do this, that, whatever. And it will literally pop up a schedule for you of what you should do, how much time you should spend on it, when you should do it. And then obviously you can go back in and provide additional like requests and prompts to really fine tune it to exactly what you want it to be. But then you can download it as a PDF and you have like the plan for your day or the plan for your week. And you can like check things off, which I'm a big fan of checking things off. And it's literally like turning AI into your own personal assistant. And I really do like the practice of doing that brain dump because I do it myself all the time, like by myself without anyone listening. So now adding that component where, AI is listening to you and then they are actually taking all of the things that are exploding out of your brain, organizing them into a nice little nice little timeline for you. And there's your to-do list. Then you don't have to worry about prioritizing things on your own or remembering something or forgetting something. It's all there. So I know we didn't come here just to talk about AI, but that I think relates to AI, that relates to social media, that relates to time blocking and strategy for being more efficient in your business. So there's your free AI tip for the day.
Yeah, and while you were going through it, I was typing it in. So I'm going to tell you, I told ChatGPT they're my personal assistant, that I'm going to brain dump, but I'm also going to put what I want to listen to, and that I wanted to put what I'm listening to while I'm working, because like I want to hear my Christmas music. I want to listen to Wicked. I want to listen to my podcast.
I
So
love it.
they're generating it now. Oh my gosh. So we have like 9 to 9:30 task post podcast episode while listening to Sirius XM Christmas. 9:30 to 10:30 revise client content while listening to True Crime podcast. Oh my, I didn't even ask, but it gave me a break from 10:30 to 11 while I
See?
enjoy a warm drink or snack while listening to my Christmas CDs.
You've
Then,
definitely
yeah.
programmed this so that it knows you. If it's telling you to like grab your favorite mug and put your hot beverage in
Mhm.
it and just enjoy. That's
And it
awesome.
made me realize, like, because to me, I thought I had like way too much work. But it gave me more time for what I said was my most important task, which is very interesting. It kind of was able to gauge what was a half hour task and what wasn't, which is
Hmm.
really huge. And it has me finishing this by 4:30. Now, I didn't tell Well, I didn't tell ChatGPT that we're starting at 11:30, and I didn't tell them that I like to nap. But I would
But
revise.
those are all things, that's a perfect example of the ways that you could kind of customize your prompt. Like, this work needs to be completed between noon and 4 p.m. And it'll like redo it for you
Yeah.
so that those things are within there. Now, whether or not that's a realistic amount of time, that's another question. But it still, I think, does a really good job. Even if you don't follow it to a T, I feel like it's a good starting point if you're
Yeah.
feeling overwhelmed. And I know that, as business owners who are generally solo for a lot of the administrative, wearing a lot of different hats, that is a really, really great way to make things feel a little less overwhelming, more manageable.
Yeah. Now, I know not everybody's going to be able to relate to this, but I want to talk about this too because this has changed scheduling a bit for me. And I say it may not be relatable because not everybody has the same level of flexibility for their schedule, but
Right.
I was getting up every morning and it was very hard to get started. And one of my friends made a casual comment of that being indicative of a night owl. And finally I was like, yeah, why don't I work at night? Just because I'm not supposed to? I was
Right.
like, what if I leaned into working at night and allowing this schedule, not to necessarily end at 4:30. So I have a bit
Right.
more freedom and less pressure. So that was a big game changer for me. I wonder if you have any tips or ways people can determine when they work best and how to implement it.
Actually, yes. So I'm a mom of two, and two for babies as well. So and I am home with my kids are toddlers. I'm home with my kids, 3 days, 2 days out of the week, they're not in school. One day they only have a half day. So, I am a full-time mom in addition to, all of the CEO things that I have to do. And a lot of the time, especially when I'm very, very busy, I do have to prioritize some of my work for post bedtime. So, this past year, I would get my kids down to bed at 7 o'clock, and then by 7:30, be kind of like logged in on my computer and working for 3, 4 hours. My husband was working nights, so there was no one to hang out with anyway.
Yeah.
So I just kind of use that time to be as productive as possible because if you think about it, if you are working late at night, um, people probably aren't immediately responding to your emails and expecting a response. You're probably not getting random phone calls. I know for me, my children are not bothering me because they're asleep. So it's a really great time to actually be uninterrupted. And I find that I am immensely more productive during those times and less likely to kind of like hop between things. I can focus on one thing and just do it because I am this is a do as I say, not as I do, but I am a terrible example of someone who I see an email come in, I'm like, oh, I need to respond to that, even if I'm in the middle of something else, or like, oh my gosh, I get this phone call. Oh, they just gave me something I need to do. And then I hop into that instead of going back to what I was doing before the phone call. So, working late at night has actually helped me to focus on one thing at a time and not jump around so much, which definitely contributes to productivity, I would say, and efficiency. Um, One thing, though, that I will put out there as the caveat is this can be a really fast track to burnout if you do not set boundaries in at other times of your day. So, if you are going to focus most of your work time later in the day or in the evening or at night, I think that's fine. But that means don't be working from 9 a.m. until that time and then working over, which is something I am also guilty of doing. I think it's really, really important to set those boundaries so that you do have time for yourself, so that you do have time for your family, so that you can plan, other things that, have to do with your personal life around that. So I think that deciding when you are the most productive and then leading into that is amazing. And I definitely encourage it. But just make sure you're doing that work to also set the boundaries on the other end, so that you're not just working, working, working 24/7, and you don't get a breather, and you feel like, because once you do get on a roll, it's hard to stop. It's definitely like, okay, like I'm just going to keep doing this because I'm being so productive now. I'm just going to keep going. So I think, there's pros and cons to any approach, but specific to that, I think you decide when you are I mean, there are people who are morning people. I don't know those people, but I am now one of them. Um, and I have been forced into it because I have kids. So I have to be up in the morning no matter what. But I have had a little more leeway with deciding what I'm doing and when. So I have kind of taken the liberty there, and I build my day around everything else. And I'm fortunate that I have that flexibility. I know not everyone does. But I think I'm right there with you. Have you found a lot of success, Nina, with working later at night? Do you find yourself more productive as well?
I do. And it's just been less stress on my mind, knowing I'll have that extra time. So some things I like to do. One of my hacks is like I freaking love casseroles because like they cook for like a long 40 or like a good meatloaf, something that's going to be in the oven for
Yeah,
a long
yeah,
time. Because then once I get it in, I get that like work time while it's cooking. So I'm not like
totally.
at the stovetop the whole time. Or, as you were speaking, what I was thinking of, I think what would be great, the other day I was watching my niece while I was working because my sister needed help with childcare. And
Yep.
my little Madison, she loves systems. So I made my schedule for the day and then I put a line and said, let's make Madison's schedule. So we plan time, we do things together, and times we do things separate. But I imagine for some kids, after mommy does her brain dump in ChatGPT, now going, now what are all the things you want to do today? And
Yeah,
having them
right.
put it in ChatGPT and having ChatGPT make their schedule of fun things so they can be like, because
I
Madison's
love
so
that.
like, she was holding me to it. She was like, it was 2 o'clock and we didn't do typewriters. I was supposed to show her my typewriters. And she's like, we have to stop. It's 3 o'clock. I'm supposed to do clay, so she
They
found it a
keep you
lot of fun.
honest, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So that was, and it was a way to keep, we were still, it felt like we were dividing and conquering, like we were doing it together, even though
Right,
I
yeah.
wasn't able to devote, the true focus time I wanted with it.
I love that actually. I might try that because I think my kids might actually respond to that. They are young. They're 3 and 4, almost 5. So they are still young, but if you make it like a game like that, like you're absolutely onto something like that. Like, hey, look at this. Mommy has one, you have one. Let's try and stick to it today. Maybe I'll try that
She
on our
loves
next day at
the
home together.
Yeah, she loved like the power of writing in her own thing or deciding what she was going to pick for what. And then she went home and said she was going to make her brother's schedule. So
The next generation of AI users. I love it.
yes. So we came up with a lot of really fun things, kind of on the on the fly here. I did want to ask you a little bit about packages because that's one of,
Yeah.
the things that I think you really speak on really well. So, what I wanted to ask is how do you communicate, and this is for our wedding industry pros listening, how can they
Yeah.
communicate the value of their packages to prospective clients?
So I think the first step in building your packages and being visible to anyone, um, I truly think that being transparent about your price point is crucial. I've seen a lot of information recently about this kind of era of wedding client, and that price transparency ranks really, really high in their list of priorities amongst any of their wedding vendors. And actually, I've seen a lot of feedback about frustration surrounding lack of transparency, and that is something that may actually be costing some vendors potential clients because they can't even see a range on your website. And I'm not saying you have to say like it's exactly this all the time, whatever, but like starting at XYZ plus, I think that is extremely, extremely helpful. Um, and I feel like that's just something that I wanted to say, even though that's not necessarily, you know, outlining your value. I think it's actually more relating to your values as a business owner and the fact that you do value the being transparent about your pricing and that you want the best for your clients. Because how does that translate? If you don't have your pricing on your website, you are basically saying, well, I don't care if I waste my time go weeding through all of these leads that may not be qualified. And perhaps if you had just had even a starting range on your website, you could have weeded out, 10 out of 20 leads, that wouldn't have even reached out. And obviously, I understand, you want to maximize your leads, but you want to maximize qualified leads, not just leads in general. As far as kind of communicating your overall value, um, one thing that I think is important, which I don't think a lot of people think about, because I think everyone's like, oh, well, this service and this support and that, then, this is what I'll do for you. And all of that is certainly important. However, I think that showcasing and highlighting your passion for what you do is actually one of the most high value things that you can do as you're speaking to your clients because it trips something off, I feel, in their brains to see someone talking so passionately about even a service that they're offering or about their business or whatever, because they think that it really allows you to seem like a human. And, in the end, I'm a planner. People, yes, they're buying my services, but like there are 8 million other planners that are offering the exact same services as me. However, they don't offer those services the same way that I do because only I can offer those services the way that I do. Um, and that's also not to say that the way someone else is doing it isn't as good. It's just different. And I think that's one of the things that makes us as business owners stand out. It's how you are representing your business, it's how you are communicating about your business, and it's how you're making your clients feel. So while I think, being able to outline all of your services and all of the perks and amenities or whatever that you can offer are certainly important like it's important information, obviously. But I do think that selling yourself is immensely more important and letting people get to know you. Because in the end, as a planner at least, and a lot of the times as a photographer or as a florist or, as a DJ, like you're going to be intimately involved in one of the most important days of these people's lives. Therefore, for most people, it's really important that they vibe with you, that they align with your values. They're not just buying your services or your product, they are buying you and they are going to be interacting with you. So I like to kind of put the more of the focus on that piece of the puzzle than the individual services, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I have an example of what you were talking about initially regarding the pricing. So
Yeah.
there's a luxury destination wedding planner client, and she had just started with social media and ads.
Yep.
And so she's getting all these inquiries, but she says a lot of them, weren't really
Right.
qualified. And so
Yep.
she's getting time on the phone. And, yeah, we took into account the pictures and everything else to establish luxury. But look, a lot of these people are couples are first time buyers. They don't know
Right.
the cost. So we were brainstorming.
Pinterest has ruined us.
Yes. And so we decided that putting somewhere on the contact form of, establishing a starting price range would be the best way to combat that. So this may not be, look, if you're in your first 2 years, you're still establishing your pricing and figuring that out. But once you're set on your pricing, I think that's when it's important to have it listed somewhere because it's, I think like you said, it works on both ends.
Right, right, exactly. And I think, the way that you as a business owner decide how to communicate that is certainly up to you. I've seen people who will have kind of packages or services listed, in their services page of their website with like a little starting point, like, 10K plus or, whatever it might be. I've also seen it, as you mentioned, in the contact form where it's like, the budget is a drop down and the lowest budget that you offer or the lowest price service that you offer is the starting point of that drop down, and people will get the hint. It's a little bit less of a
Mhm.
direct way of sharing your pricing, but it's at least, telling people, okay, well, if you don't have any services under 10K and they do the drop down and they see that 10K is the lowest amount, they're not going to reach out to you if their budget's 4K. Hopefully. I
Yeah, or
mean,
they may
that's not
address
a
it.
guarantee, but
Yeah, they may address it in the comment section and say,
right.
this is more my budget, so you can go into it knowing. And, I
Right.
want to mention on our webinar, we want to leave time for Q&A. So if what
Yeah.
Ali is speaking about is resonating with you, or you want to ask specifically what you should do in your instance, come on to the webinar live, because that's the only way to guarantee you'll get to ask us questions. And we have two times. It's December 11th. We have 11 a.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Eastern. So those are the two times we'll be on. You can sign up in the show notes, and we also have it linked in our bios on Instagram. And coming live is the only way to guarantee asking the questions. If you sign
Mhm.
up, you'll get the replay. But if you have questions for Ali about this, you're gonna want to come on live.
And don't forget too that you not only are getting me and Nina, you're also getting Emily, who is the queen of all things kind of web design. She is going to be presenting about some really great information that will help you to, strategize how you are crafting your business website. So we've got you covered in the systems and processes. We've got you covered in the social media. We've got you covered in your web presence. It's going to be a really kind of jam-packed webinar, I think. So I really hope everyone joins us.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it because there's just kind of like this. We're just focused on kind of value packing it. Like I feel like
Right.
this episode, I don't know what I'm gonna call it, but it's like a potluck of value where we just kind of just,
Love
went
that.
off the rails saying, what can we give? What can we talk about? So I'm really, really excited for the discussion. Between now and then, Allie, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Eventlightenment or on my website, which is just eventlightenment.com. Or you could check out my TikTok. It's not as robust as the Instagram, also at Eventlightenment for TikTok. So hopefully I will see you out there somewhere in the social media universe, but definitely on the webinar next week. Can't wait.
Yes, thank you everybody for being here, and I will catch you on the next Wedding Wednesday.